Hi, this is Kelly and welcome to my YouTube channel. And tonight I'm just going to talk briefly about defining food addiction and your abstinence sort of food plan. So for food addiction, I guess it's not really like a formal definition, it's more of a feeling where if you ever have periods of time where you eat a particular food item and you really struggle to control yourself. Sometimes maybe you can control it and other times you can't, and you end up eating until your stomach is distended and you're praying for death. Other times you might be able to not have it, but for the whole rest of the night you're tormented by obsessive thoughts about having more, or the next day it comes back again and now you want something else, either that particular item or something similar to it. Like for example, sweets. Say you have a sweet treat after dinner one night and then you don't have any more, but the next day you start craving something sweet again. That's a good indication that you may have an issue with a particular food item. So food addiction, one of the problems with food addiction is just the word food, I think. I think people use that term because they don't really know what else to say. So like with alcoholism, every person who's an alcoholic has an issue with alcohol. So it's easy to label it. You're an alcoholic. But with food addiction, it's not the same for everybody. Some people have issues with savory foods. Some people have issues with sweet foods. Some have issues with a variety of foods. And sometimes people can have pasta and bread and other people can't, and it's really up to the individual to determine what things they have an issue with. So I think people will say food because they figure, okay, it all has something to do with stuff we eat, and therefore whatever your issue is, it falls within that realm. But you can't really specify it because not everybody is a sugar addict or not everybody is an oil addict or whatever, so you say food. But when I say food addict, obviously I'm talking specifically about some of the food substances that I have a problem with, and I'm not talking about all food. So for example, I don't have an issue with carrots or celery or, lettuce or that kind of thing, unless I do something to it that makes it even more delicious. So putting really fatty salad dressings on my salad, or having my favorite hummus, which has oil in it, with my vegetable tray. So for me, I can just keep eating and eating and eating and eating, but really the vegetables are just a edible shovel for the hummus. And so therefore I can't have my favorite hummus anymore. I have to make my own where I don't have that kind of reaction to it. So then the question becomes, well, how do I define abstinence? How do I know what I have issues with? Well, some of the things are obvious. I mean, you probably already have an inkling what those things are. For me, it's usually sweet things, but it's also anything with oil in it, which is tragic because try traveling, try going to a restaurant, even try going to the grocery store for a week and buying things that have no oil in it. This is the bane of my existence, honestly, is the oil. I know so many other people who have abstinent, like food plans that they can travel without a problem. For me, I have yet to figure out how to do it. So anyway, the combination of sugar, oil, and salt is definitely the trifecta for most people. That combination is a deadly one. In fact, corporations have spent time and money in labs trying to come up with the perfect combination that will cause addiction. But some people don't have an issue with sweets. Some people have an issue with like gravies and meat and stuff like that. So you have to figure it out yourself. And one of the hardest things about that is that if you are a food addict and you're trying to make your list of things that you should abstain from, it's asking the addict to have enough honesty to be able to say, yes, this is something I need to abstain from. And that can be really scary, especially when you're talking about things that you feel like, I need this. I mean, I won't be able to get through a stressful situation, or what if I'm really bored, or I get so much enjoyment out of it. How am I supposed to live without it? Those are really difficult emotions to battle, and to be honest with yourself and say, yeah, I can't have pizza. I just can't, even though it's your favorite food ever on the planet, that kind of thing. So the way that I have done this, or what I'm working on right now, because I'm actually in the process of working on this, I have 3 categories. One I call my deal breakers, which are things that I just absolutely can't have them. If I try to eat them, I either eat beyond comfort, or if I am able to control it, I obsess about it for the rest of the night, or even the next day. I've eaten trigger foods before that have caused me to like go on binges that lasted months and ended in gaining like 20 to 25 pounds. And that has happened over and over and over. That wasn't a one-time thing, over and over and over. Sometimes it takes me a few months to get back on track. Other times it takes me a year. I have been battling now for 4 years to get back to where I was when I met my husband, when I was in Overeaters Anonymous. And I've had periods of abstinence once a year pretty much during those 4 years, but never made it back to where I was and triggered and regained the same 20 to 25 pounds over and over and over and over again. This is the closest I've been to that in 4 years. So it has long-term, consequences. And more people, I think, I have to double check this, but more people probably die in this country every year from the consequences of their eating behavior than from drugs and alcoholism. Because hypertension, cancer, heart disease, all of those, cholesterol, diabetes, those are all lifestyle related illnesses that kill people every year. Dementia is associated with diet. So these are all like really serious things. I know people tend to make light of it and be like, oh, you only live once, or, at least you're not drinking. I've had people say that to me, and I'm like, I'm going to kill myself a lot faster with food than I probably would have with alcohol. I'm not going to drink again, but I'm just saying, this is a big deal. So anyhow, category 1 are deal breakers. Those most of you probably already have a pretty good idea about, because I'm sure that you have battled it for a long time if you're watching this video. The second category is kind of keep your eye out, or measured. I'm not really sure what to call that category, but essentially it's kind of a category where if somebody gave you like an unlimited amount of something, you would just keep eating it. But if they gave you a limited amount of it, you'd be fine when it was gone. You'd just be like, oh, whatever. I don't think there are that many things that fit in that category for me. Right now, plain popcorn is in that category. And by plain, I mean it was not made with oil, like air popper popcorn, no salt, nothing on it, just like plain popcorn. I will eat like a whole gigantic bowl of it if I'm in front of the TV and I'm eating it. But if you gave me a small bowl, I'd be fine. So there are a couple of other things I'm looking at right now for that category, and that is bread and pasta, so flour products. I'm beginning to think that anything with white flour is probably off the table, like white floured pasta. I eat whole wheat bread, and I still can go to town on that. So far, the only bread that I've eaten that I tend to not care for anymore after I've had a bean burger on an Ezekiel bun, I won't want another one. So Ezekiel bread seems to be in that category for me. Maybe whole wheat pasta, because I tend to not like that very much. So sometimes then it's like, well, if what I can eat doesn't taste very good anyway, then why am I eating it at all? But maybe I'll develop a taste for it. I'm not sure. Other things you might think about for that category is make sure it's really that food that you're having the response to, as opposed to things you put on that food. So like, for example, the Ezekiel bread, where if I make toast with Ezekiel bread and I put peanut butter on it, I will eat another slice and another slice and another slice. But if you gave me like plain Ezekiel toast, I probably wouldn't. So it's really the peanut butter. And likewise, like salads, where you put a bunch of fatty salad dressing on it. Is it really salad, or is it the salad dressing? So think about that. Or is it the circumstances? Well, if you gave that to me when I was watching TV, I'd just keep eating it and eating it. Well, then maybe you shouldn't eat things in front of the TV if you wouldn't do that normally if you weren't in front of the TV. So those are some questions to ask yourself. Category 3 is foods that are just totally fine. That if you give them to me, I'll eat them until I'm satisfied, and that's it. And so then those you don't even have to worry about at all. You don't have to think about how often you eat them or measuring them in any way, because those foods, your body is having a normal reaction to those foods. Those are the foods that you should eat the most of, if not all of, because your body is behaving like it's supposed to, like how it's biologically evolved to do. So those are the types of things that it probably needs. And so anyway, those are the things that you sort of keep. So that's kind of the process that I'm going through right now, where I'm trying to figure out like what kinds of things I should completely abstain from, what things that maybe I should have in limited amounts, and what things I'm good to go on. So I will talk more about, once you've defined, your abstinence, how do you actually stick to it, in another video. So keep coming back.